Rally. Jason Miller about to join us. He is the Senior Communications Director from the Donald Trump for President campaign. Joining us now from Trump Tower, Jason Miller. Good to have you, man.
Hey, John, thanks for having me on this morning.
I got to tell you what, Jason, I am so fired up today. I know we are going to win this election. You go to these rallies you've just had in Florida. Over 20,000 people in St. Augustine. Over 20,000 people in Tampa. Wherever you go, record crowds. This, Jason, is a movement. The opinion polls out there, we know they're biased. We even got an email from WikiLeaks, basically the chairman of the Clinton campaign, John Podesta, telling media companies how to rig the polls in order to dispirit the Trump base. They're so fraudulent. They're so dishonest. Give us an update. What is going on out there, Jason?
Well, this is one of those days, John, where you're pretty fired up on the campaign trail. You know, Mr. Trump just finished up several big days in Florida, just huge rallies with 10,000, 20,000 people. We literally had 20,000 people in Tampa night before last. Last night was in suburban Orlando and then up in Tallahassee. But the thing that we're seeing this morning is, number one, Mr. Trump is leading nationally in the LA Times daily tracking poll.
Right.
Huge poll. The biggest news this morning is that Mr. Trump is now leading in Florida, 45-43. That's a Bloomberg poll. And the key, though, John, is that these numbers move so fast and so quick, and there's such a dislike of Hillary Clinton that when we have days like yesterday where Mr. Trump is driving his message of repealing and replacing Obamacare, and the media, sometimes even the broken clock gets it right, focused yesterday on the single most important actual news issue of the day, which was this announcement that even at a best-case scenario, people are going to have 25% increases in their health care coverage or their health care premiums. This shows just how quick this election can move. And so even as we talk about Virginia, where a couple of the recent polls have shown Hillary in front, look, we're spending money in Virginia. We're spending time in Virginia. This is a state that we expect the gap to close very quickly here because fundamentally it's a change election, and Hillary is not going to change it. She's going to keep it how it is and make it worse.
You know, the thing is about Virginia, Jason, we fought for a week on our show every day across Virginia the fact that NBC had fraudulently lied and said that Trump was pulling out of the state. Not true. We got a $2 million ad campaign. Donald Trump just came to Virginia Beach on Saturday. We had 5,000 people there on a Saturday afternoon. You know, we put a message out to get workers to be poll watchers and poll workers, and we've had such a response to this. We can't even get the people into the training sessions. We have so much enthusiasm here on the ground in Virginia. We have a huge enthusiasm gap. Jason, look, I'm the chairman, as you know, of Virginia for the Trump campaign. This race is going to be very competitive. We have a shot to win. There's no doubt in my mind. And all of the surveys that have come out in Virginia, if you look at the crosstabs, they're completely ridiculous. This thing is going to be extremely close. I think we're going to win, Jason.
Well, so do I. And you were there on, I believe it was Saturday,
yes, sir.
When Mr. Trump was in, was it Regent? What were we at, 10,000, 11,000 people? I mean, the crowd was one of the biggest crowds I've ever seen for a political candidate in the state of Virginia. And the thing that we all remember that's way too fresh in our memories is we remember how it closed real quick in the Senate race. We remember how close everything became in the last governor's race. And if we just had some more national support, if we just had some of the establishment folks pitching in down the home stretch, we might have a Republican senator and a Republican governor in the state of Virginia. Here's now that we're talking about the presidential race, the attention is there, the energy is there, and we know that we can win Virginia. We just need everyone to help out and make it happen.
Well, look, everyone knows in Virginia, Republicans close late, and what you just cited is absolutely correct. All of the public surveys in 2013, the final week had Governor Terry McAuliffe up by 9. He won
it's
by...
tough to say, by the way. It's real tough to say.
It is. It is tough to say. But they had McAuliffe up by 9. He won by 1.5. Then in the midterms, everybody had Mark Warner the final days up by 13-15, and Warner squeezed in by 10,000, which was about 0.5%. So, look, these surveys are ridiculous. We see the enthusiasm, Jason, that we have on the ground here in Virginia, and I've never seen anything like this. This is a movement. We're going to break late. I want you to address some of the early voting because, once again, the false lying Clinton narrative is that, they're getting all of the early voting. Robbie Mook said we're getting eye-popping results. It's all BS, right?
Well, it is, and to give you a couple of specific examples, that's one of the things that the games the media likes to play. And before I address Virginia specifically, I got to give you one NBC example recently. So last week there was a poll that came out that NBC was pushing that said that Mr. Trump was trailing in the state of Nevada, which is a very important swing state. Well, what they didn't show is that NBC themselves also had a poll showing that Mr. Trump was winning in Nevada. And so rather than push their own poll, they were pushing this Monmouth poll saying that he was trailing in the state. And that just shows you the levels to which news outlets, some of the mainstream media outlets will go to try to put their thumb on the scale. But look, here's the trend that we're seeing all around the country is that Hillary's support level is dropping off. And so I'll give you another example in Iowa. I believe this was through yesterday. It may have been through Monday. But in the early voting, which is a big chunk, Mr. Trump was trailing by 39,000 votes, which might say, 39,000 votes, that's a big chunk. But the way that's 16,000 votes less than what the Democrats had 4 years ago with President Obama. So that's a big drop-off. I mean, we're going to win the state of Iowa. And so the important thing here is that there's not enthusiasm for Hillary Clinton. She has real troubles with her African-American base, who, quite frankly, say, you haven't done anything for us. She has real troubles with millennials who say, again, I don't see any concrete plans of what you're going to do to help us find a job or to get the economy going. And there's just no enthusiasm. We're the ones who have the enthusiasm and the support. And so when we see some of these numbers, just know that Hillary is way off her pace with a number of key groups that are critical for her to have a chance at winning. And we're pretty darn excited with the energy that we're seeing on our side.
Look, there's no question. Jason, let's get to the allegations. Many people are concerned about voter fraud, questioning some of the machines. Also, look, if, again, you look at the WikiLeaks email, you've got John Podesta, Clinton's chairman, saying that they were going to find ways to get illegals involved. Basically, if they have an ID, show up, whatever. What are the plans in place that the Trump campaign has to be sure that the electoral system we have is going to be on the up and up?
Well, a couple of things on this front. We are working to get a number of these set up around the country and to enlist people to help with poll watching and such. And this speaks to the overall rigged system that Mr. Trump is talking about on the campaign trail. You and I have spoken already about the rigged media that's in place. The other thing that Mr. Trump has been calling attention to is this insider back-scratching, pay-to-play politics. We see it even with the governor here, Terry McAuliffe, sending all that money to the state Senate race in Virginia, and then over $500,000. And then magically, that happens to be the wife of one of the FBI investigators looking at Hillary's emails. I mean, this thing is so corrupt. I mean, it's incredible. Our philosophy when it comes to Election Day and voting is that we want everyone who is legally able to vote to be able to show up and vote and participate in the process. Right. But they can only vote once. Right. And we're seeing these, there's so many reports around the country of 2.75 million people who are registered or voting in places where they're not actually registered to vote, or in states that they're not registered to vote. There was a Washington Post article in 2014 that said upwards of 14% of those here in the country illegally voted. I mean, that's just insane. And so we'll have a strong program with poll watchers to make sure that there's ballot integrity. And again, for us, we fundamentally believe that more people showing up and voting is better, because we're the ones with the energy and with the grassroots movement. But we have to make sure that there's honesty and integrity at the ballot box, and we ask for everyone's help in doing such.
Without a doubt, we're with Jason Miller. He's the Senior Communications Director for the National Donald Trump Campaign for President. Jason, we have thousands of listeners right now that are saying to themselves, look, how do I get involved in Virginia? And many in North Carolina, how do I get involved there? How do I be a piece of the answer? For those listeners that really want to get involved on Election Day, what should they do?
Absolutely. Go to the website, donaldjtrump.com. Sign up to volunteer. Get active. We'll be back with you immediately. Or you can drop by your local Republican County Party headquarters, or the Republican Party of Virginia can get you plugged in right away. But it's real easy. Go to donaldjtrump.com. Sign up to volunteer. We'll be right back with you, and we'll get you plugged in.
Okay, you have to do that immediately. We've only got 13 days. I want to get to what's been picked up in the media the other day, that Mr. Trump is not going to do any more fundraising in the last 13 days other than what you've got going on online, that he wants to spend all of his time taking his message directly to the voters. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, John, sorry to chuckle, but I sometimes these media reports, it's sometimes I feel like I signed up to get kicked in the head every day. But the reality is that we're still fundraising. We're still raising money for the party. We're going to have a strong Get Out the Vote program. Governor Pence is actually headlining a fundraiser in Utah today. Mm-hmm. Both Governor Pence and Mr. Trump will be doing a fundraiser together tomorrow. We're continuing to raise money and stay active. A lot of the fundraising, the structures for the events will be different. They might be smaller events that we do just before big rallies, or we moving some of these different pieces around so it doesn't interfere with the campaign schedule, as Mr. Trump is trying to do 3, 4, as we saw yesterday, sometimes 5 campaign stops a day. Mm-hmm. But there's no taking our foot off the pedal. We're raising money. We're going to make sure that we have a strong, coordinated program with the national party. And there's one particular news outlet that really fumbled that story yesterday. And but hey, this is what we're up against every day. But there's no letting down at all with Mr. Trump. And John, I saw him last night when he got into D.C. This guy just finished up a huge day on the campaign trail. And if there was a crowd or a rally, he would have been ready to go and talk to him right then. It's amazing how much energy he has on the campaign trail, and you can really see how what he's going to bring to the White House after he wins.
So how's his mood right now?
He's fired up. He's in a very good mood. He's pumped up. Today's polling numbers are good. It's a direct reflection of the hard work that we're putting in battleground states like Florida and nationally. And I think, too, keep in mind that Mr. Trump's a businessman. He's someone who's actually started businesses and created jobs. He'll be opening today, doing the formal opening for the hotel at the old post office, which came in under budget and way ahead of schedule before he has a big policy announcement in Charlotte, and then he'll be in over kind of on the coast there in North Carolina, where they're hit hard by flood damage recently. But this is, 3, 4, 5 events a day. He is in such a good mood right now, and his spirits are so high. And these crowds. How can you not be in high spirits when you see these crowds and you realize something really special is happening in this country?
Well, you got to be fired up. We're with Jason Miller. He is the Senior Communications Director for the Donald Trump for President campaign. Jason, let's get to the pathway for victory. I've said all along, you're going to win all of the Romney states, including North Carolina, which I know we're ahead in now. You're going to win Florida, you're ahead there. You're going to win Ohio, you're ahead there. That leaves the other battleground states to put you over the top 270, including Nevada, Iowa, Pennsylvania, Virginia, several others, Colorado, perhaps New Hampshire. What's the pathway after Florida and Ohio?
Well, we feel very good about Florida, where Bloomberg polling today has us ahead 45-43. We feel good about Ohio, which has consistently had us in front. We saw polling from Remington Research yesterday that has us leading in North Carolina. And then as we talk about going on offense, and that's, John, that's one of the things that the media never wants to give Mr. Trump credit for, is the fact that he's putting so many of these blue states in play. We feel that we're going to win Iowa, which Mr. Trump will be back in, I believe, the day after tomorrow. We feel good about Nevada. And look, we saw polling even just yesterday that showed that we're in very good shape in Colorado. We're closing strong in Pennsylvania. We're within the margin of error in New Hampshire, and heck, even Wisconsin is in Michigan are still in single digits here. So there are a number of different ways that we can get there, but we talk about kind of those core states: Florida, Ohio, North Carolina, Iowa, Nevada. All very good, and we're pretty confident about our positioning and our trajectory right now.
Any other trips for Mr. Trump planned back to Virginia?
So, as you can imagine, at this point, we're usually only a couple days in advance because
right.
we're looking at the data and we're making data-driven decisions here. Right. Next week has not been set in stone yet, so he'll be in Ohio coming up here tomorrow, and then we'll be in Iowa, and we'll be heading out west for the weekend. But so we don't have the next week's schedule lined up, but keep watching, keep going to DonaldJTrump.com, see the schedule that we put out there, and we're gonna make sure that we bring Virginia home.
Well, look, as the state chairman of Virginia, I can tell you that we're going to pull the upset here. I can feel it on the ground. There's no question. I think we're going to be the shocker of the night on November 8th, and I can't wait. Final word to Trump voters out there. We know that the Clinton campaign and the media has tried to dispirit those Trump voters, many of them not involved. They've not been the typical voters that show up every single time, trying to dispirit them. What's your final message to potential Trump voters in Virginia, North Carolina, and America?
Well, this is the time for us to come together. This is the time for us to come together and stop Hillary Clinton from becoming president. If Hillary is allowed to win this race, if we don't do what we need to and show up and bring our friends and bring our neighbors and vote on November 8th or beforehand if you're voting at all early, we're going to set the Supreme Court back a generation. I don't think this is a 4 or 10-year setback for the Supreme Court. I think it would be a generation. We're going to see her push to expand Obamacare and continue her drive toward a single-payer plan, which would be just crippling, not just for our health care policy in this country, but for our economy. We're going to see taxes go up. We're going to see spending out of control. But there is an alternative, and that's why Mr. Trump is so exciting as a candidate. Is not only is he giving people someone to vote for, but he's giving them something to vote for, a tangible set of policies that will improve the lives of everyday Americans. In your pocketbooks, when we talk about keeping our streets and our nation safe, when we talk about rebuilding our infrastructure, this is critical. This is a time we have to come together. If you're a Republican or if you're a conservative, even if you back somebody else in the primary, now is the time we have to come together, because if we don't, it'll be President Hillary Clinton, and that'll be really bad news for our country.
Well, Jason Miller, I've no doubt in my mind we are going to win this election on November 8th. It's going to be like Brexit. All of the public opinion surveys from all of these dishonest media outlets are way off, and I think we're going to win, and we also have a shot to win Virginia, no doubt in my mind. I want to thank Jason Miller for taking time to be with us today. He's the Senior Communications Director of the National Donald J. Trump for President campaign. Keep up the good work, man. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, thanks for everything you're doing. Thanks, John.
All right, that's
Bye-bye.
Jason Miller, and we're going to win this election. No